Lion Runner here doing weekly news and quick reviews for reviews and revisits on YouTube and Instagram. All right, so we're going to start off with Warfare. And also, since we last were together, I saw Warfare, G20, and Sinners. And then we want to talk about some Marvel stuff. Of course, we already hit on Fantastic Four and how it's going to be about gender politics. And then we had Thunderbolts come out this past week, or yeah, since the last review anyway, and we find out that that's about mental health. Interesting topics for Marvel movies. We've got the the Megan 2 trailer that we haven't talked about as well, and also Revenge of the not Revenge of the, yeah Revenge of the Sith. That's what it's called. Episode 3 of Star Wars came out and wrecked shop at the theaters. So let's get into it. Warfare is a movie for sure, and it had a lot of high praise, at least on my Instagram timeline. I did see other places, and I found it to be an intense movie. This film takes an interesting approach. It starts off very slow, and it's I called it kind of a bold risk on my Instagram review, where they intentionally, and I understand why, but he intentionally bores the audience for the first 20 minutes. The first 20 minutes is a lot of just showing these guys taking over this house in Ramadi, these Marines, U.S. Marines, I believe they are, definitely U.S., but I believe the Marines, and they took over this house in Ramadi. It's based on a true story, and even at the end of the movie, they show side by sides of the actors and the real guys from this event that the movie portrays. And they're basically in there for that first 20 minutes, just setting up their sniper's nest back from the window, so somebody peering in from outside doesn't necessarily is not able to see them. They kind of lay down. The sniper lays down on this platform that they built, and it just shows the guys taking turns getting on and off the platform, taking a whiz, getting a drink of water, milling around. It's really boring for 20 minutes, and I understand that's to set up the juxtaposition because after that, once the sniping from outside starts, it gets very intense. But for that first 20 minutes, I'm more engaged in my phone than I am at the movie that I'm in. So that's an interesting approach. Bold risk. Understand why he does it. Now, a lot of people found this to be a great movie. I don't think this is a great movie. I think this is a great representation of raw warfare. It's a great demonstration of warfare right in your face, and it's an experience. If you really want to have that raw, intense, in your face experience for 2 hours, I, I kind of found it to be a little bit much. But the more to the point, the problem with it is that there's the lack of story, and there's really no allegory here for you to sink your teeth into. You're just experiencing warfare, and you're just there, and so you get to have that experience if that's what you want. But as far as the way movies move me is through the storyline, through the connection of the storyline. It's really no story here other than uh, these guys trying to get out, and you can connect to that and rooting for them and getting involved in the outcome, and you definitely are going to be drawn into that. But this movie was done by Alex Garland, along with it was directed by Alex Garland and this other guy, Ray Mendoza, and Alex Garland directed and wrote Civil War, and I really enjoyed that movie because it had a deep allegory and it had another angle on warfare that we really hadn't seen before, where it takes the perspective of these traveling journalists who can travel from one site to the next, get on the front lines. The only other way you would normally see that would be different fronts in a war movie would be from the soldier's perspective, but we've seen that plenty of times. It doesn't mean it can't be done again, but this was a totally different perspective. And then the allegory that's in the movie around uh, what is her name? The girl who played MJ in the original Spider-Man movies, Christy. I can't think of her name, but in this movie, she kind of makes this. I kind of noted this in my reviews at the time. She makes this point at one point that this is what we've been reporting from war zones for all these years, reporting back to America when we went to foreign war zones to try to warn them, don't do this. And all for not, here we are in America doing the same thing. And that was kind of, I think, the poignant moment of the movie. And there's nothing like that really here. You just These guys are in an urban battle, and you just watch it unfold. So that's that for me. So I thought it was a great demonstration of warfare, but it's not a great movie. But you can make your decision about whether that's an experience you really want to go and have. It is visually pleasing, and sound engineering and all that stuff is quite good. G20 was another movie that came out, and we talked a little bit about this last time in my last weekly review, but now I've seen it and you get my perspective. Yeah, so you can see that a lot of the reviews are things kind of saying this is the funniest movie of the year, but the joke is it's not a comedy, right? And uh, I've seen a few things like that. What were they thinking here? Uh, Laughable, most laughable action movie, but calling it trash, I think is certainly over the top. But yeah, the movie's not that bad. It definitely is a movie that is kind of in the vein of Die Hard or Air Force One with Harrison Ford, where he was the president and had to escape a terrorist hijacking of his plane. It's definitely lines up in that vein. The movie wasn't so bad for probably even the first 45, 50 minutes or so. It was fairly decent. Um, Initially, Viola Davis wasn't this superhero star. She was kind of being led away and escaping, being led by her Secret Service agent, who was kind of like the big gun. But even though she did have a kind of that early fight scene that you see in the trailers in the elevator, but even then it wasn't like one on one combat. It was kind of that Secret Service agent was in that fight too, and then she kind of helps out at the end and helps him to fend off these guys. But where the movie really starts to get dumb is there's an opportunity for her to escape. They're going past the kitchen where a couple of the terrorists have the kitchen staff tied up and hands bound behind their backs, and the Secret Service agent is trying to get her out, along with about three other dignitaries, I think, who were in the ballroom who kind of escaped with them. And she's like, I'm not leaving without them. The kitchen staff, who they're not under any threat of being killed or harmed. Clearly, the terrorists aren't interested in kitchen staff. They're there for all the international dignitaries, and they just have their hands tied behind their back. They're sitting on the floor. They're fine. They're going to live, no problem. But she has to be the hero when she is the big target. Her staying puts everybody in danger. If she's the U.S. president, her getting out that takes away the terrorist's biggest target. That undercuts much of what they're doing and also allows to be more palatable to assault the ability if the U.S. president isn't at risk because she got away. Their mission kind of fails if the U.S. president gets away. So the best thing she can do for everybody is get out of there. The worst thing she can do is stay and get caught. She endangers everybody even more. But of course, she has to be the hero. I'm not leaving without them. It's fake heroism because you're not helping them, you're hurting the situation. So that started the stupidity, and then it got worse. I of course criticized the notion that this 6-year-old 135-pound woman in the Woman King could beat up 250-pound linebackers and go bare knuckle brawling fist to fist with a big 250-pound male linebacker. It's insane. 6'4", 250-pound man against this 5'3", 135-pound old woman. And she can stand there and go blow for blow with him. Just absolutely insane. When she gets into a similar situation in that kitchen scene when she's trying to rescue these folks, at least in this case, it wasn't bare knuckle brawling. She did have to use like a cast iron, a big frying pan to bang him over the head multiple times to win the fight. But it's still ridiculous that she would even have the gall to try to go after this guy. I mean, he could have still easily blocked her slow old woman swings just by blocking her on the forearm and knocking her out easily. That's kind of far fetched. They tried to set it up, but she got him on a sneak attack. But just the notion that she would even have the gall to go up against him is absurd. The likelihood that she would have won in real life is zero. So to even attempt it is just not believable. But that's not even the dumbest part. The dumbest part is when she decides to surrender because they get the terrorists back upstairs, get her on the radio, and find out that I think because they have her husband or they have some other people or whatever, and she's going to surrender, and they send the one guy down to go retrieve her. And you can guess what happens to that one guy. Stupid. So I didn't even finish the movie after that. It got a little dumb, and then the fact that she's 60 years old with teenage kids, and then worse, the teenage daughter is a supercomputer hacker. This whole trope is so old. It's so easy that she can hack the White House. If these things could just be easily hacked by random teenagers with a laptop, then why do we have internet security at all in the first place? And I just got through watching a show called Humans. It's a show about AI synths that come alive. In that movie, it's a teenage girl about the exact same age who is the super computer technologist of the world, who can hack anything, who can rewrite code for uh, creating human life from synths that only one person who spent his whole life had ever done in the first place, but she can figure it out how to expand it, and it's just absurd. That whole Riri Williams super teenage girl knows it all, can do it all, greatest intellectual mind of the world and history trope is just annoying. But anyway, to keep it going, let's take a look at Sinners. Now, this was another movie that I got to see during this last couple of weeks since our last update here. And this is a really good film that I enjoyed. Um, I don't know if I found it to be as just extraordinary as everyone else does, but let me get into what I like about it and why I may have some maybe more issues with it than others. This is my Instagram reviews and revisits. It's when you type it, it's reviews underscore and underscore revisits. So you see, I have my written review for Warfare here, and let's take a look at the one for Sinners. Sinners is saintly at the theaters and a definite watch. Ryan Coogler's Sinners is a visual feast, engaging movie-going experience. It was reported that it's a movie about race relations, but it is not. Obviously, race is going to be part of the backdrop of a film that's taking place in the Mississippi Delta in the 1930s. But the movie is not focused around race. It kind of just informs the backdrop of some of the characters, and there's some incidents of some racial discourse there, but it's not what the movie's focused on, and it's not at all what the movie's about. There is one really interesting aspect of race that is thrown in here that goes against type as far as what you would expect in a Jim Crow South 1930s movie, and that's the presence of Chinese people in the Mississippi Delta, which is a real thing that there was a sizable population of Chinese people in the Mississippi Delta at that time. And before even seeing the movie, I saw a part of a documentary of some of the actual people who were children back then who are still living now. Maybe they might have been children a little bit later in the 50s, who are still living now, talking about those years and how their families often own grocery stores. Some of them actually used to live in the back of the grocery stores. One of the ladies who was in that documentary talking. So then you go to the movie here, and Michael B. Jordan, who's playing twin brothers, I don't remember which one it was, Smoke or Stack, is goes to the grocery store, and you see all the black people in there shopping with the Chinese proprietors. And the Chinese father tells his Chinese daughter to go get your mother at a certain point, and she leaves out of the store that she's in, goes diagonally across the street into another store, whispers to her mom that dad needs her. She takes over the cash register for her mom, and her mom goes across the street to where the black people are shopping. The catch is at the store where her mom was, where the teenage daughter went to, is all white people shopping at that store. And that was kind of a point that was made in the documentary that uh, they were able to exist as a kind of a bridge between the black and white folks at that time, being able to serve both communities and making sure that the black people were served in ways maybe they otherwise would not have been. And that's shown in the movie, but it's not talked about. They don't even mention what's going on. You see it happening, and it's a very interesting part of the movie, but it's not even discussed. There's no big ballyhoo made about race, maybe till the end, but that's again not what the movie's about. What it is about is people in their dreams, as I write here, and the social challenges and life curves that derail those dreams. Kind of best laid plans of mice and men type of situation, if you're familiar with that poem or book. And that's what the movie is really about. And that's where you can, any and everybody can relate to the characters here, because you've got the twins who are dreaming of making a better life for themselves. You have the young musician, blues musician, who's dreaming of uh, making it in the world from his craft, and what else the world has to offer outside the Mississippi Delta, and kind of like his cousins, Smoke and Stack, who've been around the world and have come back. He wants to see the world, and you get little pieces of other people's dreams as well, who aren't as developed as those main characters, but you get enough development to find out about that. The movie kind of slumps for me in that it doesn't have a strong allegory. It's really fun, really good setup for the first 50 minutes, really visually engaging. The character acting from everybody is great. It's an engaging and interesting, fun movie, but it's not this change the game movie as people made it out to be. The allegories around music and the power of music to connect, I guess, to the spirit world, to connect people across different cultures and different backgrounds, and we get that with the Irishman, who is the vampire, who's an Irishman, and how his music was, he felt like could connect him back to his past and possibly dead relatives. It actually is a foreshadowing of when the young black blues player goes to get his guitar at his dad's church, and when he's leaving to go with Smoke and Stack, his dad tells him, "You go out and play that music for the devil might follow you back." And that's kind of what happens with the vampire, if we want to consider that the devil, because he found this young musician to be such a gifted musician and singer that he could be used as a tool to help him, if he could bite him and bring him into the vampire clique, that I think he felt like he could use him to, his musical gifts would allow him to connect to the spirit world in the way that he wanted to, and that becomes kind of what the whole movie goes towards. And that there's an allegory about the power of music in there, and they show music from the past connected to the music they're playing in the juke joint currently. They go into the future, even have break dancers and all different types of music, and b-boys from like 80s hip hop. And so there's an allegory that's presented, but it's not really leaned into. And there's some other like weird subplots. Both of the brothers are kind of, I don't know, they kind of have the same story with their women, and both of them. It's weird that they end up in the same place. All the men, they're really, all the men in this movie are kind of really weak, and as far as dealing with women. So yeah. Anyway, there was too much of that was unnecessary, and I would have liked if the allegory was more developed, and we would have gotten more of an understanding of what was going on with all of that, and what the kind of the lore of that was. If that would have been built out, it would have been even stronger. Very good movie, though. Definitely recommend. All right, so let's take a look at what's happening with Marvel. So Marvel's tackling mental health, and gender politics, and with the Thunderbolts, some people think Marvel is back. But if you check the box office returns, it's nowhere near back. Okay, it did 76 million, I believe, domestic, about 163 million global. Marvel movies used to be do about 320 million on an opening weekend, and so with their reported budget, this is the thing people have to understand about budget. A budget is just some words on a paper. It's a plan before you actually produce something. Once you produce something, then you have a spend. The spend is what counts, not what not what the budget was that you planned ahead of time. We all know that Marvel never sticks to its budgets or anywhere close, so you can be guaranteed that this movie, just on production alone, was at least 200 million, at least. And I wouldn't be surprised if it was closer to 220, 230. But let's say just 200 million, 100 million for the marketing and distro. You got a $300 million movie. On average, it differs in the states and globally, but on average, you average it all out, about 50 to 55% of that comes back to the studio. So basically, you need about $600 million or more for this movie to break even. Captain America opened significantly higher than did Thunderbolts, and it tapped out at 414 million. This movie has no chance. It's another major flop for Marvel. So if you enjoy, I guess a lot of you guys liked it. That's great. A lot of people didn't as well. So it's kind of been from the people that I've seen talk about it. I don't know, maybe not half and half. Maybe the majority of the people liked it. Some really liked it, but a whole lot of people still have big problems with it. And my understanding is they defeat the villain in the end by hugging it out to cure the mental health, I guess, of the villain. Not interested. Not what I go to see superhero movies for. So if you enjoy it, enjoy it. But I'm out on that one. Something I'm in on though is can't wait to see this Megan movie. Yeah, it's a little camp. It's a little whatever. But basically, it seems like they're taking the Terminator 2 approach, where at first she's trying to kill, uh, well, not the little girl, but the aunt of the little girl. And then in this movie, she's coming back and she's going to be the ally to stop the newest robot that was built on her architecture. The aunt thought she destroyed it all. Apparently, I think the guy in the last movie who was trying to steal it and get out the building, maybe he gets out the building with those designs. And so now I guess they need Obi-Wan Kenobi to help them with some droids to help them get the designs back. But no, but now somebody else went and built that new robot, and she's a homicidal maniac, and now Megan's going to help them on this time. So it's really that Terminator 2 approach. I think that's the way it goes. Not as much a horror movie this time as it is an action movie, but it's an approach. Seems like good fun to me. Let's see.
Megan's our only chance. Prove you can be trusted. Maybe we'll give you an upgrade. Any requests? You better believe it, sister.
So yeah, that's what we got coming. Not going to play much of it because uh, YouTube is really on creators about this copyright stuff, and so you can't really do much of anything anymore. So I don't want to take any chances. I like to keep my stuff up and not have problems. If I do get this channel monetized, I like to be able to make some money. So, but looks kind of interesting to me. I've definitely got some interest to see it. So that is what's happening. Then finally, I want to talk about Star Wars Revenge of the Sith. You see the number highlighted there, 42.4 million. I think it was only for a 4 day release. I know I actually went to see Sinners on the Thursday that it was out, and my movie theater parking lot was packed at like 8 o'clock at night going into the theater, and it still was pretty strong even coming out close to 10. I guess maybe about 7:30 is when I probably got there, and about 9:30, 9:45 coming out it was still probably three-fourths packed. And that's unexpected for a Thursday night. I'm trying to think what was the new movie coming out in theaters that week. Was that when Thunderbolts was premiering? Maybe. But either way, I know that a big driver was Revenge of the Sith, and it really did gangbusters. This is a movie I did go see. Only movie I've ever seen twice in the theaters when it was originally out during its original run. Other than a movie where I took two different women on a date, it's the only time I went to actually see a movie to see it twice. I'm not a huge prequels fan, but this was easily the best of the prequels. It was actually was a really good film. It has some problems too with it killed some lore and stuff. But anyway, not going to get into all that. Just want to celebrate. I was really glad for the movie theaters around the country to get this big boost. 25 million domestically, 17 million internationally. Um, so there goes one win for Disney because they didn't really hardly have to spend any money other than the distribution of the probably if it's actual physical film, but I think it's all digital, so it's probably easier, cheaper distribution. So didn't have to spend much money, and get to take home almost pure profit on their keep of that, which they probably kept 20 something million of it, probably more than 50%. They probably had the deal worked out. So, but that's butts in seats at the theaters. We need the theaters to do well. If we really love movies, let's go out and see movies. As much as there's something there that you want to see, definitely not advocating for you to go spend money if there's nothing there. But if you're on the borderline, go spend money at the theater and go see a movie. So we're glad to see that this happened. And yeah, we'll get back with you on the next one, Lion Runner Reviews and Revisits on YouTube and Instagram. like, subscribe, notification bell. I'm out.